Mr. Mayor, the committee made some changes. I appreciate working with Mr. Hamilton and the mayor and Mr. Kimmel and the other members of the planning committee on making those changes in the overall capital budget itself, as usual, addresses many different issues, be it from playgrounds to roads, $5.5 million for roads, to drainage issues. And I think this is the wisest use that we have of city's money. Not that we don't spend anything on wisely in the city, but we don't. But I'm saying that interest rates are very low at this stage. This is an investment or infrastructure. All we hear about between the state and the feds of how they don't invest in our infrastructure, and we have continually, over a decade at least, if not more, invested in our infrastructure to the point that I think at the end of next year, possibly, I think every one of our bridges has been tackled in the city of Norwalk as far as improvements go. We've increased funding for roads over the years by several $1 million. So I think the changes, though minor, addresses some issues that we think we certainly need to do. We have ball fields. I think at the Rubin Court field that we put some extra money back in the basketball courts and the ball fields, fix those up down there. We move some money around for that. I think it's very appropriate to use some money to take care of a lot of different issues. If we wish there was more, it's like everything, but this is a reasonable way to spend it. So I move for its adoption, Mr. Mayor. And everybody has before, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, everybody has before them the corrected sheet that shows the amount. I thought it was a little bit cleaner than the way it was in the packet. The packet had a separate sheet in it that lists the amount. Thanks, Ms.
Mr. Hempstead moves the item. Mr. Petrini.
Yeah, I just want to talk briefly on one of them because it has to do with recreation and parks, where I'm the chairman. One of the biggest things that we're going to finally undertake is some things on at Veterans Memorial Park. I mean, we've been hearing for a number of years that the launch ramps are in dire need of replacement. And before we could actually, I mean, these things probably needed to be done years ago, but before we could do anything with it, we had to get a master plan put together for the whole park, which we did, I'm going to say, probably 3 years ago. We had a master plan, it was approved. With that, we started working with the finance people of the city, and we knew it was going to be very, very costly, but one of the first steps, and we all recognized, was the launch ramps. Two things happened down there with the advent of Hurricane Irene and Superstorm Sandy. Is what most people don't realize at low tide, as you start going down the ramps, there is a wooden ramp that is below the water. And last year when we had the harbor dredged, we didn't touch the ramps, but through the years, the longevity of those ramps have been getting shorter and shorter. So when you have a low tide and it says end of ramp, you really need to pay attention because you're going to go down. You're going to lose your boat. You're going to lose your trailer. Boat will float. Trailer doesn't. And that at low tides, you really only have about 1.5 feet, maybe 2 foot of water, which is not enough water to float a boat, most boats. And on the other hand, when you have extremely high tides, you can't get to the ramps because that area is flooded. So what we've done, we originally needed about $1.8 million, and we knew we weren't going to get that. I went to Mike Mulcahy, Director of Parks, and I said, the docks themselves need to be replaced, but we could last a few more seasons. What can we get the ramps done? And with that, talking with the planning people and all, he said that we got some feelers for that $1 million, and we were short 200. We were 800,000 was put in, and we're adding another 2. We will finally be able to address the ramps. We will mitigate for the high tide by raising the area, and all this work will be done. We're not doing it over when we deal with the docks. It will all be working together that will pick up where we left off when there's more money appropriated for that. So I just wanted, we are, as you said, a waterfront community. Those ramps are a definite asset, and I just want to let the boaters know because we've been hearing an awful lot of complaints, and this is the way it works. I'm just so finally happy that we can get this thing going, and we should, barring everything, probably right at the end of this year's boating season, get it done so we'll be ready for next year. We won't have to worry about low tide and high tide. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Petrini. Mr. Kimmel.
Yeah, I spoke a minute ago about what happened when we were negligent on dealing with flood issues, and finally we got our act together, and we've been doing decent jobs since then. But two other issues that are in the capital budget. I remember a time when in the late 90s, our capital budgets were so low that we were getting further and further behind in road repair. We just couldn't fix, our streets were deteriorating faster than we could fix them. And it was a downward spiral, and if we didn't address it soon, we would have been in big trouble. So we did begin to address it, and we are continuing to address it. And in this capital budget, we have raised it from traditionally, it's been about $5 million. We've upped it to about 5.5 million. 5,500,000, which I think will, right now our roads are deemed by our consultants to be in fairly good shape. We have a PSI of about 75. We need to spend a little bit more to get it up to 80%, but we have a long-term plan and I think we'll do it. The other issue, which became very apparent, that made me start to think about what was going on with flooding 12 to 14 years ago, was when we were discussing our sidewalks a couple of years ago. We really had not much money in the budget to address them. And they were deteriorating faster than we were fixing them. And once you have something like that happening, you have to take action. And if you don't, you're going to it's going to be a catastrophic situation, fiscally speaking, because they eventually have to be fixed. Okay, especially when you consider Connecticut law and who's ultimately responsible for sidewalks. Ultimately, it's the city's got to make sure they're in good shape. So we have $900,000, which is for sidewalk repair for the next year in this capital budget, which is the very first time we've had this line earmarked for sidewalks. A lot of it will be done the traditional way in association with paving projects, but we're also going to now begin to repair sidewalks as we find the ones that are in disrepair, irrespective of whether there's a road being fixed, nearby or not. So there's some things in this capital budget that are very, very good. One of which is the money for sidewalks. Sidewalks, it's a nitty-gritty issue, but it really affects thousands of people on a regular basis. So it's a good budget, and I hope we support it.
Thank you, Mr. Kimmel. Mr. Hempstead.
Yeah, I know, I must have talked twice. But Mr. Kimmel reminded me of something, because it is one of those things that kind of got glazed over until about 3 years ago when the city adopted a report to start fixing its ADA requirements. And we had a lot of barriers through disabilities. Council, mayor, most of the time we accepted the report and we decided at that point to fund it. And I'm glad to see this year again, there's another $250,000 committed to fixing our ADA, plus the money that's going to the Mill Hill House is also an ADA project. So I think people need to understand it's a hard balance, but we have a lot of things, but we certainly try and make it all happen.
Thank you. Further comments? Okay, seeing none, again, I want to thank the planning committee and all the people involved in the the capital budget that we put together what we believe is a very responsible budget with the assistance of Mr. Hamilton. And I think the department heads were very responsible in identifying the items that were very important to them. I will be meeting with Mr. Alvord and DPW staff to determine the sidewalk repair issue. I know they have a report on which sidewalks are in desperate need of repair, and I think we need to focus on them because we have many, many sidewalks that are difficult to navigate, especially if you have a child in a stroller or if you have to use a walker or a wheelchair. And it's time that we start investing in this infrastructure. And again, I think this is a very good capital budget, and I appreciate everybody's cooperation. And I certainly appreciate the spirit of cooperation among the council. I think we're moving forward very nicely, so thank you very much. Again, now, all in favor of the capital budget as...
Roll call vote.
A roll call vote, okay. A roll call vote on the capital budget item as presented by Mr. Hempstead, along with the changes. Clerk, if you'll call the roll.
Mr. Bonifant.
Yes.
Mr. Hempstead.
Yes.
Mr. Kimmel.
Yes?
Ms. Stewart.
I'm going to abstain.
Sorry?
Abstain.
Abstain. Ms. Melendez.
Yes.
Mr. Watts.
No.
Ms. Bowman.
Abstain.
Mr. Sims.
I'm going to abstain.
Mr. Kites?
Yes.
Ms. Maggio?
Yes.
Ms. O'Toole Dirkle?
Yes.
Mr. Petrini?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Nine yes, one no, three abstentions.
It says 9 yes, 1 no, 3 abstentions, motion carries. Thank you.